Hello, welcome on the video lecture Antenna and Wave Propagation. In this series of lecture, already we have seen two element array, n element array, uniform amplitude and spacing arrays, that is broadside array, end-fire array, and also we have seen non-uniform amplitude and uniform spacing array. In this lecture, we will going to discuss binomial array, Dolph-Chibashio array, planar array, circular array, log periodic antenna, and Yagi-Uda antenna. Binomial array. Now this is an array with non-uniform amplitudes. The amplitudes are arranged so that the resultant radiation pattern has no minor lobes. Consider the two elements here with equal excitation, and if distance is lambda by 2, it is having the radiation pattern of 8 shaped. If the distance is changed to lambda, we have the different pattern here, you can see here. So this array has the normalized electrical field that is given as En is equal to cos of pi d upon lambda into cos phi. Here the separation of lambda by 2 between the elements, whatever we are getting the pattern, that does not have the minor lobes. But in case of uniform linear arrays, when the elements are increased, then pattern have minor lobes. So if the separation between the group element, if it is kept to be less than or equal to lambda by 2, then pattern have 8 squared shaped. So we observe from our previous calculations that if distance is less than or equal to lambda by 2, then whatever the pattern we are getting, that does not have the minor lobes. But if distance increases greater than lambda by 2, it has some minor lobes. So basically we have to avoid these minor loops, and here we have to increase the directivity when the length of array is going to increase, and the pattern should not have the minor lobes. But in many cases we observe practically that although we are using the increase of directivity with the technique of increasing the arrays, it contains some minor lobes, and that could be decreased using the current excitation method. So the amplitude having some pattern there, we will see here in binomial array. That is, if d is lambda by 2 and the pattern what we have is cos pi by 2 into cos phi. Thus what we have here, the resultant electric field for 4 element array, assume that the distance between the arrays is d is equal to lambda by 2. So whatever the elements are there, the distance is d, and here we are keeping this distance equal to lambda by 2. Thus the resultant electric field for 4 element array is nothing but the field of unit pattern into field of group pattern. Already we have seen that how to find the pattern multiplication. So pattern multiplication is nothing but the pattern group pattern into the unit pattern. For more details you can refer to my last lecture. So here if I put here the field pattern of the unit, because we have the two elements here, only there are two elements. So here the first element, that is unit element, having the pattern is cos pi by 2 cos phi, and if you take the group pattern, it also has the same electrical field, so it is cos pi by 2 into cos of phi. So here what we have from the two element array, the two element array, and if you multiply this, we are having the resultant electric field for 4 element array, that is cos square pi by 2 into cos phi. Now consider the similar case here, but with the 3 element only. In previous case we have seen the 4 element array with having the 8 shaped radiation pattern. Now here we are going to observe the 3 element array with the same pattern, and this could be achieved by overlapping the antenna 2 and antenna 3 here. So here if we overlap the antenna, if there are 4 elements, we can overlap the antenna 2 and 3 here, and it will produce the only one source with the amplitude 2i. So now here a single carrying, there will be a source with the current carrying of the amplitude of double as compared with the previous condition. And hence here the 3 elements having the current which is distributed as 1:2:1, and the separation is we are keeping lambda by 2. So in this way we can progress to the 4 element array. Now in this case we have taken the 3 element array, and the 3 element array is again repeat in the same sequence by skipping the first element. Now you can see this is first element is as it is. This 2i plus I is equal to 3i, I plus 2i which is equal to 3i, and this is I, here is no element, so it is I. So this will give us the 4 element array, and if you calculate the resultant electric field, that will be cos cube pi by 2 into cos phi, and again we have a simple pattern, that is the 8 shaped pattern. Now in this way if we are going to add the elements, and in general case for n element array, if you put here n, and n can be varies from 2, 3, 4, etc. Now this process is continuous, and the desired pattern and degree of directivity can be found, and it is observed that it does not have the secondary lobes, and the coefficients can be observed using the binomial array, or binomial coefficients, and can be calculated using a simple technique called as Pascal's triangle. So each internal integer in the triangle is the sum of the adjacent ones above. The resultant electric field of an element array will be cos raised to n minus 1 into bracket pi by 2 into cos phi. So if we have the 3 element array, put there n equal to 3. If there is 4 element array, put there 4 here, and we will get the resultant electric field. Now see one example here, and you will understand how the binomial antenna or binomial array is going to design. Mainly a linear broadside binomial array has 8 radiating elements. If the current in the second element from the either end is 1 ampere. So the current in the second element is 1 ampere, which is given in the problem, and calculate the required excitation current in the remaining elements. So in this array antenna there are total number of 8 antennas, so there will be the 8 elements, and current is given, that is 1 ampere current is flowing through the second element from the either ends. So from the either ends 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 elements, and if you observe the second element from the either ends, means this is the end, first end, and the second element will be this one. This is the end, either end, and the first element will be this one, second element will be this one. So in this case, in these two cases, the current flowing is 1 ampere. Now we have to calculate the current flowing through the other antennas. Now just prepare the Pascal triangle. Now for first element we have to take 1. For second element, repeat 1 here and repeat 1 here. And for third element, add 1 here, add 1 here, and for the remaining part add these 2. So 1 plus 1 is 2. For the next case, again repeat 1. Here also repeat 1. So for other elements, 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 1 is 3. For the next element, 1 as it is, this one as it is. So 1 plus 3 is 4, 3 plus 3 is 6, and 3 plus 1 is 4. For the next element, 1 as it is, here 1 as it is. So 1 plus 4, 5, 4 plus 6, 10, 6 plus 4, 10, 4 plus 1, 5. So likewise that up to 8 element we have to complete the Pascal triangle. Now after completing the Pascal triangle, we have 1, 7, 21, 35, 35, 21, 7, 1. Now you can measure this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 elements. And we know that this second element carrying the current of 1 ampere. So if this second element carrying the current of 1 ampere, so 7I is always equal to 1 ampere, because here number came 7 at the second position. So 7 is equal to 1 ampere. So how much is the current flowing through this part? So it gives us this part having the current of 1 by 7. So if I divide this whole by 7, I need to, you can see the arrangement. So 1 divided by 7, 7 divided by 7 is 1, which is given in the problem itself. That is, current flowing through the second element from either end is 1 ampere, and it is satisfied. Again we have to divide by 7, 21 divided by 7, 35 divided by 7, again 35 divided by 7, and likewise that. Now these are the amplitude of excitation current feeding to these elements, and the binomial array will be formed. We can also find out the binomial coefficient using a binomial formula. Now next antenna is the Dolp-Chibashu array. Dolp-Chibashu array. So basically in the design of linear in-phase antenna arrays of non-uniform amplitude, the Dolp used the Chibashu polynomial, and hence the joint name is Dolp-Chibashu arrays. An alternative spelling in the Russia will be and pronounced as the Chibashev or Chibashev. So again in the Russian language and in case of the English language, the spelling is differ. Chibashu arrays produces narrowest beam width for given side lobe level and vice versa. So side loop levels are given, and for that side loop levels, according to that, it will provide a narrowest beam width and higher directivity. If directivity is higher, naturally gain of antenna will be higher. And here a Chibashu polynomial can be defined. Actually the process is very complicated. It is a recursive process, but I have adopted here a very much suitable technique to calculate the polynomial, and that technique, actually the Chibashu polynomial Tmx is equal to cos m cos inverse x, where x is, or absolute value of x is always less than positive 1, and Tmx is cos hyperbolic of m cos hyperbolic inverse x for absolute value of x which is greater than 1. And then we are going to find out the delta at x, and accordingly we can calculate the coefficients. But I am going to skip that part. I have adopted another formula that is known as the difference formula here, and using the recursive method we can easily calculate the Chibashu polynomial. Suppose T0x is 1, it came to 1 because the cos m delta, where if we put the values of m and delta, in that case if cos 0 is 1, and so here T0x is always 1 because cos 0 is 1, and T1x is equal to x. Now that could be identified that for the T1x, if you put here m is equal to 1 in cos m delta, so it becomes cos of delta, and we assume that cos of delta is nothing but x. Now you remember that the formula is Tm plus 1 x is equal to 2x Tmx minus Tm minus 1x. And given that T0x is always 1, T1x is always x. You remember these two value. If m is equal to 1, if I put m is equal to 1, we have m plus, that is 1 plus 1 is 2, that is T2x, which is equal to 2x, m is 1, put here 1, T1x minus, if m is 1, it is become T0x. Now put the values here. 2x, what is the value of T1x? That is x, put here. Then T0x, what is the value of T0x? Is 1, and put here, and simplify this, we are getting to x square minus 1. Similarly, we can put m equal to 2. If m equal to 2, m plus 1 become 3. So T3x is equal to 2x T2x minus T1x. And put the values here. Already we have calculated T2x here. And put that value 2x square minus 1 into, which is in bracket. So whole bracket multiply with the 2x. Then T1 already we have calculated here, that is T1 is equal to x, and T3x will become 4x cube minus 3x. Now in case of the arrays, if there are even number of sources, already we have seen this even and odd concept in previous lectures. So here the total electric field what we have is become 2a0 cos psi by 2 plus 2a1 cos 3 psi by 2, because if it is arranged, if the even number of sources are there, then we will have the d by 2, 3d by 2, and likewise that we have the path differences. Now you observe one more thing is that it is always multiply of the 2, because we know we have the leading and lagging part, and because of leading and lagging exponential part, we can replace that part with the 2 cos of theta, because we know that e raised to j theta plus e raised to minus j theta, which is equal to 2 cos of theta. Now the last term what I am taken here, that is n0, which is total number of even isotropic sources. Now we can make one arrangement here. Now this arrangement is very simple. What we have doing here, now n0 is always equal to, you remember, in the multiple of the 2, that is 2, 4, 6 up to 2 into k plus 1. Now k is varies from 0, 1, 2, 3. Now if you take here, that is n minus 1, if you take n minus 1 the term and divided by 2, if you operate here, it will become 2k plus 1 divided by 2. How? You can see here it is 2k plus 2, 2k plus 2 minus 1, 2k plus 2 minus 1, so it is become 2k plus 1 divided by, this is 2, this is 2. So I can replace here n0 minus 1 divided by 2 by the new term 2k plus 1 divided by 2. If I rearrange this term, then I have, that is the last term here, and using the summation notation I can write down, that is total electric field is 2 into summation of k is 0 to n minus 1 ak, because amplitude is going to change with Dolbesch-Shivashu array, cos of, now you can see here cos of 2k minus 1, 2k minus 1 psi divided by 2, 2k minus 1 psi divided by 2. And here we can say here n is nothing but ne is equal to twice of n, that is n0 is equal to twice of n, and accordingly we can calculate the value of n here. Now we can directly replacing this part with the Chebyshev array, which is equal to, I am going to replace this part with this value, because psi by 2 I am keeping, so it is, we can say m psi by 2. So here this part can be replaced with the Chebyshev arrays. So here the Chebyshev coefficient could be given as t 2k minus 1 into x. and likewise that we can have the amplitudes. Now you can see here, if the odd number of sources are there, and we know in case of the odd number of sources it is the multiples of integer values. Again we have 2k plus 1, and if you rearrange this, that is n0 minus 1 means 2k divided by 2 means k, and it is the multiple of k. So here the radiation pattern will be 2 in summation k equal to 0 to n. Again the meaning of n is very simple, ak t 2k, because here I am replacing this with the 2kx. Why it is 2kx? Because we have to arrange this with psi by 2. If I make here psi by 2, we have to multiply with the 2. If I arrange this psi by 2, we have to multiply with the 2. So we have to multiply with 2 in numerator and in the denominator, so it is become 2k. So it is the 2k. In the previous lecture or previous sections, we have studied the linear array, where the elements of the array are placed along a line. But by changing the excitation amplitude and the phase or spacing between the elements, the radiation pattern can be controlled in a greater degree. Now more controls on the radiation pattern can be achieved with the elements when we placed in a plane. When the elements are placed in the form of a rectangular grid or planar array. Advantages of the planar array are: it provides more control for controlling the radiation pattern. They are more versatile and can provide more symmetrical patterns with lower side loops. They can be used to scan the main beam of the antenna towards any point in the space. So applications of the arrays are in case of the tracking radar, search radars, remote sensing, communication, and so on. So basically, if you see a linear array, already we have seen this linear array in last video lectures. Here the elements are placed along the axis. It may be placed on x-axis, it may be placed on y-axis, or it may be placed on the z-axis in a linear fashion. And in our discussion, we are always keeping the spacing constant. Always keeping the spacing between the element is same, that is uniform spacing. But in case of the planar array, we have to prepare one plane. So here in rectangular coordinate of system, we have prepared here which is variable is here y, and here variable is x. And we are making the spacing here on x-axis, and also we are making the same or other spacings on the y-axis. Here m may be equal to n, or m may not be equal to n. So here depending on the requirements and depending on the pattern, we can having the spacing here. Now if here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements are here, and this is the common element, and the spacing is dx. Here 1, 2, 3, 4 elements are there, and spacing is dy. Now just draw the lines which is parallel to x. Here draw the lines which is parallel to y, and where these lines are going to join the intersection point, we have to put the elements there. So if you calculate here 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here we have the number of elements at the intersection points. Now the theta is calculated and phi is calculated depending on our observation point. In case of the circular array, that is, it is a planar array actually, and the elements placed along the circumference you can observe here, and it is made such a like that as imaginary circle will be there, and on that circle we have to put the array in a regular fashion. And here if you consider the n number of elements placed along the circle, the radius of the circle is a here, and the distance of the observation point is r, very small r. Then the radial vector ar bar from the center we have, you can see here, this is the radial vector, and we have the rn also, the distance of nth element from the observation point. Here it is mainly governed with one equations that we have seen in many cases, in a general cases, and we have seen that equation in the fourth chapter, and using that fourth chapter we can have the radiation pattern. So I'm not going to repeat that part here again. If you want to the more information, you can see the chapter number 4, and in that chapter number 4 radiation pattern is given when the observation point is far away. Now we will see the log periodic antenna. A log periodic antenna, which is a spiral, may be similar to the spiral antenna, and the structure of log periodic antenna is specified by the angle, and hence it becomes frequency independent. A log periodic antenna is an antenna that having a structural geometry such as that impedance and radiation characteristics, which repeats periodically as the logarithm of frequency. In practice, the variations over the frequency band and the minors and log periodic antennas are considered to be frequency independent antenna. Although we have the spiral antennas, that is not very much complex in a structure and construction, that would be simplified if a simple geometrics involved the circular or straight edges. Then we could utilize by changing some geometries, and to understand the log periodic antenna we have to see this bow tie antenna. Now the antennas what we have here, that is bifin antenna, is also called as a bifin antenna, and because of these fins that have the two fins, the structure of antenna is shown here, and the feeding line and the source. It is the type of the planar version of the finite biconical antennas. You remember, this is nothing but the planar version of finite biconical antenna. The current at the input terminal decreases slowly away from the input terminals, but this current is abruptly terminated at the ends of the fins. This results in limited bandwidth, so it is not a truly frequency independent antenna. Whatever the structure that we have to modify to have the frequency independence and to get the radiation pattern of this antenna, which is the bidirectional with the broad that what we say the main beams perpendicular to the plane of the antenna. Mainly in case of the bow tie antenna, it is mainly used in the UHF TV channels, and it is frequently used with the wire grids and ground plane behind. It is so that the back loop is going to reduce. Now here, how to make the antenna frequency independent. Now we can modify this antenna, bow tie antenna, or whatever the structure, and the current, we are making the current in such a way that that will die off more rapidly with the distance from the feed point. And the modification, if you do, that structure is called as the log periodic antenna. So here we have the structure of log periodic antenna, and by modifying the simple bow tie antenna, we have the different geometries are possible, and some geometries are given here. Again, it is not restricted to this geometry. So and advanced techniques, we have the more number of log periodic antennas, but for our discussion we have taken very few. That is log periodic structures. What we have the simple part: toothed antennas, toothed wire antennas, trapezoidal antennas, log periodic zigzag wire antennas, log periodic dipole arrays. Now if you observe here the log periodic toothed planar array, this is one of the first log periodic antenna. The structure of it is defined by the angle, thus satisfying the angle criteria of frequency independent antenna. It is very much similar to the bow tie antenna, only it has some teeth. The structure consists of two wedges shaped metallic angle structures having teeth cut into them along the circular arcs. So you can see the figure, the structure will be self-illustrated. The teeth acts uh, to be uh, disturbed, and it will be going to disturb the current, and whatever the flow of current that is disturbed by or attenuated by this teeth. If the antenna were bow tie type, in bow tie type antenna the current decreases slowly away from the field point. But here, due to the teeth what we have produced here, it going to causes the current to decrease very rapidly, and current flow out from the teeth, and except that the frequency limits are not significant at the end of the antenna. So satisfying the current criteria of the frequency independent antenna, because the current die offs very quickly in this toothed planar antenna. Log periodic toothed wire antenna. The planar structures have studied in the previous section. That was found there is a strong current concentration at or near the edges of the conductors. Thus, by removing the part of the inner conductor inside the boundaries, the performance is little affected. This gives rise to wire antenna as shown in this figure. The advantage of these structures are it is very simple, it is lightweight, it is cheaper and less wind resistance. The log periodic toothed trapezoidal antenna. The edge of the plates or the wires are curved, and because of that geometry that will going to satisfy the linear edges, and we can also replace with the wires, and this does not affect the performance of the antenna. Also the fabrication is very simple. The log periodic zigzag wire antenna. Now already we have discussed about the geometry of the basic log periodic antenna, and here simplified trapezoidal structure. Now here, even if we are using the wires in the antenna in case of the log periodic antenna, and if you maintain a zigzag pattern of the wire, then what we call here it is a zigzag antenna. So it is a one more version of the log periodic antenna. Now this version is more popular, that is log periodic dipole array. Now it is consist of basically the side by side parallel linear dipole forming a coplanar array. Straight lines through the dipole ends meet to form an angle. Thus, as with all log periodic geometries, all dimension increases in proportional to the distance. So here, if you take the ratios here, that is R and L, it is proportional, and due to the proportionality, we can see here this is Rn and In divided by 2. Angle is given here alpha by 2, and this should be in the proportional. So if R is going to change, L is also going to change with the same proportion. If Rn is equal to R2, then it is L2. When it is Rn, it is In. So likewise that we are keeping the angle is alpha. So here basically it can be explained with the scale factor tau, which is equal to Rn divided by Rn plus 1. So Rn divided by Rn plus 1. So R1 divided by R2 is the scale factor. R2 divided by R3 is the scale factor. R3 divided by R4 is a scale factor. So likewise that we have a scale factor, and you remember that the scale factor, that is Rn divided by Rn plus 1, is always or should be less than 1. It should not be equal to 1, but it is always less than the 1. So as we have a right angle here, and the angle enclosed is the alpha by 2, the tan alpha by 2, if you calculate tan alpha by 2 here, that is equal to Rn divided by 2 divided by the Rn. And if you have the true elements, that we can have, that is L1 divided by R1 is equal to L2 divided by R2 is equal to Ln divided by Rn, which is equal to Ln plus 1 divided by Rn plus 1. And in general we can have L capital N divided by R capital N, and likewise that we can have the scale factor. And because of the scale factor, this log periodic dipole arrays having its own significance, that it has the greater directivity, greater gain, and it is more sensitive if you use as a receiver. Now we will have a concept of the folded dipole. The concept of folded dipole is very simple, because already we have seen the concept of dipole, and already we know that the dipole structure is this much only and this much only, because we are going to turn here the terminals. In folded dipole we are going to extend this part. In folded dipole we have to extend this part only. Basically it consists of the two parallel dipoles connected at the ends, forming a narrow wire loop. And if you see in this figure that the length of the folded dipole is capital L, and separation between the dipole is d, and it looks like a two dipoles actually connected, and the dipole is much more, that is d is smaller than the L, and also the wavelength lambda. So it has the important properties that it has a higher input impedance as compared with the lambda by 2 dipole. The bandwidth is greater of this antenna, and so that it is useful in FM and TV applications. When length is equal to lambda by 2, the structure is called as half wave folded dipole. Two properties mentioned here, that is already here, and these properties are very important, which consist that the Yagi-Uda antenna, that Yagi-Uda antenna is having the parasitic element, and again it having the dipole. So Yagi-Uda antenna is an array consisting of a driven element and one more element is there, that is called as parasitic element. They are arranged in this fashion. You can see in the figure. The basic unit is very simple. Yagi-Uda antenna, which having the elements here, there are only here two elements, and we can have the 3 elements or 4 element, 5 element, etc. The parasitic element is longer than the driven element, and this is called as the reflector, and this is called as the dipole where the feed wires are connected. It is called as the driver. So basically the separation is fixed, that is 0.04 into lambda, and we will see it how we can arrange this. If you consider 3 element Yagi-Uda antenna, it will be more clear, because we can see here this is the reflector which length is greater than the driver, and this is the dipole antenna. This is called as the director, that is the last element, and which is very small. And the radiation, if you observe, it is always, if this is transmitter antenna, then you observe the radiation is maximum in the direction of director. So you can observe here the radiation is maximum towards the director, and because of this reflector we have very less back loop. The optimum spacings between the reflector and the driven element, or between the director and the driven element, is lies between 0.15 to 0.25, and the reflector length is 5% or more than the resonant length of the driver. And we have the typical length of 5% or less than the resonant length of the driver in case of the director. The resonance length of the driver is typically about 0.47 to 0.48 depending on the radius of the wire used for this dipole. Now if you see the directivity, it is of 9 dB for basic 3-element Yagi-Uda antenna, and which is increased by increasing the number of elements. So directivity can be increased by increasing the number of element, and this is a very good application or very good convention in case of Yagi-Uda antenna. So only one reflector is possible. We can need only one reflector, and the second, third reflectors added practically to this to increase the directivity. And you can see the structure here. One is dipole, then the elements are connected. This is called as the director, and the director can be connected likewise this. Again, the directivity is improved because of the number of directors. If the number of director increases, it will going to increase the directivity, and hence it is very simple because 3-element Yagi-Uda antenna having near about 9 dB of gain or directivity, and it can be increased. If I increase to the 5-element Yagi-Uda antenna, then the directivity become 15 dB, and here the number of directors can be increased up to 13, and after this there is no such improvement in the directivity. The improvement in the Yagi-Uda antenna, basically these antennas are more popular in case of TV transmission reception purpose, and in case of TV signal reception we have the more common antennas are Yagi-Uda antenna before the dish antenna. So the length of the directors goes on decreasing as it goes away from the given element. So the whole structure tapers in the direction of the propagation. All the elements are electrically conducting and grounded with the central support. The radiation pattern consists of one major loop lying in the forward direction along the axis of the array, with several minor loops in other directions. Mainly the polarization in the direction of element of axis. Now if I replace the dipole with the folded dipole, already we have discussed this folded dipole, then what we have here, which is this structure folded with folded dipole, is even more popular in the TV antenna, and which require the wideband operations, because already we know some part here regarding the frequency response of this antenna, which is more flatter, so that it is more suitable for the TV antennas. The Yagi-Uda antennas that have the λ/2 driven element, which limits the bandwidth of the operation, typically 2% of the center frequency of the operation, and which is very small in TV applications. One more problem in this Yagi-Uda antenna is observed, that it has a very low input impedance when the λ/2 dipole is used, because as you compare that, the impedance, input impedance at resonance is 73 ohm of this case at resonance, and because of that it has the, we have to rearrange this or recover the input impedance. Now we have this further decreases because of the loading effect of the parasitic elements. In TV applications, when twin lead wire is used as a feed line, the input impedance of Yagi-Uda antenna is going to mismatch, and thus there is no proper power transmission, and this problem arises with the Yagi-Uda antenna. And we having because of the drawbacks, the Yagi-Uda antenna having the less bandwidth, low input impedance, and the problem we can solve by changing the or using the dipole as a driven element. Now arrangement is, if we do the arrangement, the bandwidth is increased from 2% to 10%, and input impedance is going to increase 4 times as we compare with the previous one. So it is become 292 ohm, and that will going to match with the twin lead wire impedance of 300 ohm. So basically in case of the Yagi-Uda antenna, the feeder wire, that is the twin lead wire, mainly we are using with the 300 ohm of impedance, whereas the antenna having the 292 ohm of input impedance. So that's why the energy transfer, the maximum energy transfer can be possible. Now applications of the Yagi-Uda antenna. In this type of antenna, it is very bulky and it has very low, it uses at very low frequencies. Hence, it is used most often in high frequency range. So basically, the Yagi-Uda antenna used for high frequency applications. If you design this Yagi-Uda antenna for low frequencies, it is become more bulky and which is not practicable. It is usually in HF, VHF and UHF ranges, and these ranges are mainly used in the home TV antenna. Its high directivity makes it ideal for point communication. They are also used for basic stations on mobile communication system where the working area is out of the line, such as the railroads or pipelines. Thank you.